Hi everyone. Today's video is going to be an interaction conversation with one of my fellow agents on how do we work with clients who don't have enough money for closing costs. And as agents, how do we work around that? So I hope you stay tuned for this. It's some good information. Make sure you hit the like button down below and subscribe for future episodes. Thanks and have a great day. Hey, what's happening, everybody? Tom Hernandez here. Thanks for tuning into my channel. Today, I'm here with Jack Pascal, realtor, colleague, mentee of mine here in the office. Jack, say hello.
How you doing there?
Good, Jack. Hey, so you and I had a conversation the other day that I kind of wanted us to get on and share with everybody about. And you had some clients that were in a difficult situation, so you reached out to me, and I just kind of wanted to share kind of everybody and see if maybe people can learn a couple things from that conversation. So why don't you share with us what that was about?
Yeah, I had called you the other day. Actually, I learned something here. I have some new clients I've been working with, a young couple, very, very enthusiastic about purchasing, their first home. Uh, Unfortunately, they don't have very good financial resources. Their credit's not that great, and considering going FHA or even if they go conventional, it's going to be 5% down. I mean, they just don't have that much money to buy a property.
Right.
And so we're looking, like max price $400,000, which is, there's not a lot out there.
Yeah.
And they were thinking about making this offer on a property, and I had called you because although the property was listed, I think at 390 or something, and they're going to put 5% down. But even though they could pay for their down payment, they didn't have any money for closing costs. And much to their surprise, they didn't realize they even had to pay closing costs.
Right.
So I'm at a dilemma here where I'm like, well, shit, I'm gonna, I want to get a sale. It might be worth it for me to loan them my closing cost you know, out of my commission.
Right.
Uh, and it's better than nothing. And if they paid me back, what have you,
Yeah.
and this, that, and the other. So you smartly relayed to me that that's illegal and you can't do that. I wasn't aware that you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But what you did do is you gave me an alternative, which I learned something about. I've always heard about closing cost and having a seller pay for closing costs, and I never really quite understood all the ramifications of that and how that can be an advantage to buyers. In my world, I'm like, well, why is the seller going to pay for closing costs? What advantage is it to them?
Right.
You explained in this situation, which is exactly the way it could be used. Since they don't have money for closing costs, what they would do is instead of offering the 390 that the property is listed for, they would make a higher offer at 400,
Right.
$10,000 more, and that's about what their closing costs would be. The net to the seller would be the same as their original offer, but basically what you're doing is even though the seller's paying for them, they're getting a higher offer, but they're paying for them, so their net is the same.
Right. To the seller, they're still walking away the same prices that they were getting 390 at the end of the day, which is a win for the seller and a win for the buyer, because now they get their closing costs paid for. And essentially, we were just leveraging that into the loan amount.
Yeah, so basically, instead of them having to come up with cash for their closing costs, they're basically wrapping it up into their loan, which they're fine in doing because they just don't have the cash. They're cash strapped.
Right.
So,
Right.
that was an interesting twist as far as seller paying for closing costs, which I've always just wondered in my world, well, why in God's good name are a seller going to pay for closing costs?
Yeah.
What's in it for them? Well,
Right.
in this particular case, it's like, okay, well, you're increasing it, you're making a higher offer, the seller's net's the same, but the buyer gets to wrap up their closing costs into the loan.
Right.
And it
So
gives them the opportunity to buy something that they wouldn't normally be able to do.
right. And in your thought process was they were going to write 390 and ask for 10,000 for closing costs, in which the seller was going to net 380. And why would the seller want to do that and take less money for that? but we kind of flipped it around and bumped the price up. And, one of the things that I learned early on in real estate by an old mentor of mine was, use as little money of your own and use as much of somebody else in real estate, meaning use as little money as you can of your own money and use as much of the bank's money in minimum down payments and stuff like that. So in this case, we were able to structure a deal together in which the buyer was maybe paying a few bucks more in mortgage payment because of the higher loan amount, but he didn't have to worry about the $10,000 that he was going to need for his closing costs.
Right. So rather than them wait another 6 or 9 months till they save up their closing costs, yeah, they're going to pay, every $1,000 is, $5 a month.
Right.
So they're paying, an extra what, $50 or something a month, depending on how much the closing costs were. So
Right,
yeah,
right.
it would work, if they would accept that offer. If they, and I think that probably it would be wise as the agent in this particular case to explain that to the listing agent, because they might not realize, the whole aspect of the closing costs that we just discussed.
Right.
Kindly remind them, hey, I was going to write an offer for $390. I'm writing you an offer for, $400 because it's paying for my client's closing costs. So
Right.
they realize that.
Right. And then let's also just be clear and backtrack a little bit on the whole process of you lending them the money. Buyers can't use borrowed funds to buy things. So they can use gift money. So if you wanted to gift them that money as a awesome realtor, you could have easily done that. But, obviously you're in this business to earn a living just like everybody else. And once you were made aware that you just can't say, hey, I'm going to lend this to them and they're going to get it back, that you'd be in kind of loan violation guidelines and stuff like that. So we were able to kind of restructure it a little bit to where you got your well-deserved commission for bringing a great buyer to a property. And that offer got accepted, Jack? Tell us a little bit about that.
Unfortunately, it didn't.
It
The
didn't.
offers went a lot higher. They went up to the top one was like 450 or something, which is
Wow. Wow. So,
out of the price range. But the bottom line is it opened up my clients to a new way of thinking. It taught me something that I didn't put in perspective. Yes, I knew about sellers paying closing costs, but framing it this way, as far as you make an offer more than you were really willing to pay.
right.
You're paying the same amount that you were going to pay, but you're just having them paying closing costs, so you can basically,
Yeah.
financing your closing costs in a way.
Love it. Love it. Hey, Jack, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to sit with me and share that. Hopefully our audience has picked up a couple good little nuggets in there, and we'll continue to share some great information.
Yeah, have a great time in San Francisco.
Virtual reality, Jack. All right, I love it. Hey, guys, that's it for today. Thank you to Jack, and stay tuned for the next episode.